Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. This is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday at 9 o'clock. I didn't want to frighten you, but they call me Chris of the Northwest, and that alone could be frightening. And we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're wondering what to do with all that extra daylight, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Boy, no kidding on that. I'm just looking out. It's 9 p.m. Thursday, and I still see daylight out my window.
I know, it kind of snuck up on me. It's like, why is it still light out?
I see daylight over Nick's shoulder there too. So
yeah,
through the trees.
And when the days get shorter, then I'm counting down. I'm like, man, there's 5 minutes less daylight. But when there's more daylight, I don't seem to notice it right away.
Yeah, the day's still 24 hours long, no matter how long.
No, don't tell me that.
Anyway, tonight we're talking with Nick from Cachly. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
We're going to see what's new, learn a few cool things about the premier geocaching app for iOS. Live audience, we know you've got questions, comments, and other conversations going on. Jump in the chat. Tell us what's going on. Share your thoughts with us. But of course, before we can get really rolling in the podcast, it's time to bring in our caching capuchin. Gesundheit. Some say he listens to the Where's Waldo audiobook. And others say he was the model for the stick figure in the game of Hangman. All we know is he's called a land monkey.
And please draw my other two arms. That would be good. Yes.
I don't know, you're just ahead from where I can see it.
Right. Exactly. Figure that's where we were going with that. Hey, good to be here on Thursday night with you, Mr. Whitsand, and with you, Mr. Northwest, and with you, Mr. Cashly.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Nick.
Nice to see you.
It's been a, what do they say? It's been a hot minute. What's the expression now? What do the kids say? Yeah.
I don't know.
None of us know. None of us are kids.
No. It's been a month of Sundays, my mom would say.
Yes.
There you go.
Yep.
Indeed.
Been a coon's age.
And that too. Well, you know what hasn't been a hot minute is how long it's been since we've appreciated the support of our patrons. Patrons, you help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. And we also want to thank our corporate Denali level sponsors. That is, of course, Landsharks, landsharkz.ca. They've got all kinds of great deals going on all the time. Check out their website. And remember, they send those online orders out daily. Our other corporate Denali level sponsor is Gold Country Geotourism. Visit exploregoldcountry.com to learn more about the Geotour and the region. And do not forget to download the app or you'll be in trouble. And we just don't want that. And folks, if you want to know more about supporting this here podcast, well, let me encourage you to click the Patreon link right over there on the cachingnw.com website.
I like the nearly synchronized animated logos we had, but yet as they went along, none of us are really in sync. So,
is it like when you're watching the signals on the vehicle in front of you and your own signal and you're listening to your ticker and watching their signal and then it's like all of a sudden, they're they were synchronized.
They were synchronized for 1 or 2 clicks and then they get 180 degrees off and then they come back. And I said at stoplights way too much, I guess.
There's a great video about that on YouTube. Technology Connections, I think, is this channel.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Well, I'm going to go watch that video. You guys have a good podcast.
Okay.
Thanks. Or it could be in sync, according to Brylang. But that was so 90s. Hey, folks, we want to give you a head start. Tonight, we are talking with Nick from Cachly, in case you didn't realize that as of yet. But you can use the hashtag Cachly to ask a question to Nick in the chat. Any question you want, except when is Cachly coming to Android? If you ask that, I'm going to stop the podcast and we're going to end it right here. Okay.
Well, they're going to start asking that now.
Yeah.
But can't just throw that softball out there.
Okay. He has at least once before stopped the podcast when he said he would and made us all get out and walk home.
That's right.
Nonetheless, use the hashtag Cachly to bring up anything you want and we'll almost anything you want. There are limits. Yeah, no, Brylang, don't be going with the GC. And also use the hashtag Fatas to bring up a question in the after show. So we're going to kick it right off. Nick, welcome back. For those
Thank
of
you.
you who I don't know how, but possibly this is the first time they've ever watched a podcast or listened to a podcast, and they aren't familiar with you. Can you give us a quick introduction to, first of all, your role at Cachly and how long you've been providing this great app, how long you've been caching? I don't know, your credit card information and your mother's maiden name. Anything you want to throw out there is fine.
Okay. Well, I'll skip the credit card information. So,
Okay.
So I really found my first geocache back in 2006, and it was by accident. I was on a walk with my wife, and I found a guardrail cache that she actually had found previously with a carpool buddy of hers that was a geocacher. So we found that, and I actually then logged it about 10 years later. But I had geocaching in my mind, and I became an iOS developer, and I was developing a couple different location-based apps for mountain biking and jogging and things like that. So I had written a lot of code for that, and then a buddy of mine kind of showed me what geocaching was, and I downloaded the old official app, which was like, I think they called the classic app, and I wasn't too excited about the interface and how it worked. So I guess boastfully thought I could do better. So anyway, so I worked on it for about 2 years, did all the development and the promotion and various things like that. At the time, I didn't really have any beta testers. I think I gained a couple just in the development, even though I kind of briefly talked about it online, but people hadn't really used it. And then it was launched in December of 2015.
Hey, Nick.
So, yeah.
Nick, is it boastfully when it turns out you were right?
I guess not. I don't know.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. Please continue.
No worries. So yeah, I've been doing it ever since. To this day, I've done basically 100% of the development, but not 100% of the bug finding, the feature deciding, the feature suggesting. There's so much that has come from my users and especially my beta testers. My beta testers and I have a Slack channel that we're constantly talking daily. There's probably about 30 people on there. So there's constant conversations about, here's a bug that either they saw somebody post on Facebook or that they've found. Here's a suggestion, a feature, and a lot of things like that have just come organically. And I've been like, hey, that's a great feature that you've suggested, or that a user saw me at an event and they told me about something. So that has been kind of the evolution of Cachly.
It's a great app. Yeah. And I don't know, I have not met anybody yet that was impressed with that original classic geocaching app. I guess it worked on some level,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the best UI.
Agree.
So we're caught up on how you got started and all that. But let's say somebody's out there with an iPhone and they're not a Cachly user, let's say yet.
Yeah.
But they're considering it. What would you say are the 5 most differentiating factors what sets Cachly apart from everything else, including that old classic app that
Sure.
want to go there?
Sure. So I had my own list, and I actually asked my beta testers today what they also felt were their favorite features, so I can kind of combine the two. But most of us, including myself, said offline maps, and that's something that I have worked on for years now to figure out how to build them. They're constantly generated and rebuilt from OpenStreetMap data. So there's a number of countries that happen about every single week, and then the rest of the world happens about every month. So people are always getting updates to their maps. They can even contribute to OpenStreetMaps, and they'll see their changes in Cachly not too long later. And in Cachly, you can download full countries, whereas something like the official app, you're just downloading, I think, just tiles for maybe the place in your screen that you're seeing. So in Cachly, you can download Washington State. You can have the whole state offline, which is excellent. Try to keep file sizes pretty small. So that's one of my goals. It's all vector, so you can zoom in as far as you want. And you still have nice
Awesome.
and crisp features. So that's my number one. Number two is actually a feature of 8.0 and part of Cachly Pro, which we can touch on later. But that's counties and the Delorme grid maps. So those are basically like find trackers. So you can import your MyFind GPX from geocaching, and it will populate those county maps or the DeLorme maps. And then once you've populated those, then you can continue using Cachly, and Cachly will start populating those. But to get the real bulk of them, Cachly doesn't really, say you have 30,000 finds. Cachly doesn't really, there's no API to import 30,000 finds. So you have to go to the website for that. So that's my second. The third one is just, it kind of plays into the offline maps, but it's the powerful offline features that Cachly has. So there's what we call offline lists, and that's where you can save all of your offline geocaches. And that can be, it can save full data. So there's, you can save the description, the hint, the waypoints. You can even download all the images from the caches, all the logs. So you have all the information you need to find the cache offline if you're in the middle of the woods. That also has really powerful offline filtering. So we pretty much have everything you can think of for filtering, and you can stack them. So you can do, give me a cache that is, A, B, and C type of cache type with, all these other parameters, and then it will filter your list just to show those. So that's my third one. The fourth one is simple but very useful and powerful, and that's cache highlighting. So that's where you can take a group of caches, slap a highlight color on them, and you can set a tag for what that might be. They could be purple, and you could say that, those are ones I'm going to be finding this coming weekend, something like that. People use them for a number of different reasons. And those also sync between your devices. So if you have iCloud on multiple devices, those will go to both devices, which is kind of handy. So there's that. And then the last one that I would convince people about is text templates. So that's where you can create your own template, including with keywords, and those can be inserted automatically into your logs you're creating. You can set them to automatically insert when you're doing something like a found it log, a DNF, or any of the log types, and it will automatically populate that. Or you can just not assign a log type, and it will just be sitting as a text template, and you can manually insert that into a log text whenever you choose to. So that is my top 5.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm listening to you, Nick, and I'm, as you go through the features, like, wow, those are all such great features. And then it occurred to me, if someone is watching this podcast and they're new to the game, they're probably gonna be a little bit lost. I'm like, what?
True.
But
Right.
I think if they keep tuned in, if you stick with us, we'll get through and we'll make a lot of this make more sense as we go. But the question was there, and you answered
Yep.
it, and yeah, that is 5 very big differentiating factors for sure.
Well, I learned that maps are constantly being regenerated. I didn't know that.
Yep. And that's, I have 2 map servers that are running 24 hours a day generating maps. Yeah.
That's amazing. On the I guess on the topic of what differentiates Cachly in a number of ways, we understand version 8 was released earlier this year. That's amazing, man. Up to version and 8.0. And usually with the major version releases, the 0.0 releases, there's usually, for those in the know, that usually means there's some sort of significant level of change that's come to the app. So maybe the question for you, Nick, is what's changed the most from 7X to 8.0?
Sure. So probably one of the biggest changes is what I've called Cachly Pro. And so that is an addition of a bunch of large features that are under the Pro umbrella, and those are behind a subscription. And the subscription model was considered for a long time. I know there's apps that are going to that, a lot of apps. And it's really, I made the decision because the model of buy once and people get upgrades for life on iOS is not sustainable for a small developer like me. Yeah. So, as time goes on, you might get less app sales, but you have all the same users, which I love my users, but I needed a way to pay for those servers that are running. They cost quite a bit to maintain all the things that Cachly does. So I needed a way to kind of keep that momentum going and just have some continued revenue to help pay for the services that Cachly provides. So the costs are very small, and we can mention those in a little bit. But Cachly Pro has a bunch of things. It includes the offline maps as one of the items. So that's under that umbrella. So you get all the things that are people normally had. There's not much of a difference between maps on 7 and 8 necessarily. It's just that now they're under kind of the Cachly Pro umbrella. There was a bunch of new different features that some different designs and land cover and naming across the world. So we kind of made the map look much nicer and more in line with like Apple Maps, Google Maps, when you zoom out to the whole world and go to different places, even though everything's offline. So there's that for the maps. We also introduced what was called bold colors. It matches very closely for, especially the UK, has something called Ordnance Survey maps, and they're very used to the colors of their streets being different. There's streets that are kind of bluish, and then there's pink, and there's yellow, and there's green. And basically all the people in the UK are very used to this color scheme. And so I have that option that's actually turned on by default in the UK, but off for everybody else.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it actually makes your map, you can notice major roads and less major roads and minor roads, things like that, a lot easier than previous. So you can switch it on and off if you're partial to one.
Can you switch it on and off for just the UK or for anywhere?
Anywhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So one of the features that is also on there that I personally really wanted and I built kind of for myself, but it's offline map searching. So I was always maybe camping or something like that, and I had saved an offline list, but I also was like, well, I really want to go hiking. I'm curious where there's a waterfall, something like that. And so you can actually do an offline map search. Well, it will actually search the map tiles that are, on your device and search for whatever feature you're searching for.
Wow.
So that could be, if you're wanting to be cache centric, you could search for a road or some sort of landmark close to a cache, something like that. So that's a feature I personally really enjoy. And then the enhancement of trail symbols and colors. So in places like Germany, different European countries, they have symbols on their trails that are part of OpenStreetMaps and actually are physically on some of the trails. So there might be, a yellow diamond or, something like that. And Cachly brings in those from OpenStreetMap data, and then we'll display them on the map. And that's another thing you can turn on and off. And it also displays trail distances. So if you are curious how long the trail is that you're on, it will provide those distances for you, and you can turn those on as well. So
very cool.
Yeah, so those are some of the map enhancements as part of Pro. Some of the other things that we mentioned briefly was the counties and regions. So that, again, you can import your MyFinds GPX, and that will populate whichever country you want. So we have, I wish I had my list. I should have written down the list. So it's things like the United States, Germany, I think Austria, Australia, and we have a couple more countries that have regions, or in the United States, we call counties. So Cachly will populate those. And then once you've done that initial import, when you start logging caches, Cachly will add those counties or the regions.
Wow.
And then in addition to that is the DeLorme challenge grid. So that has been brought in. And so it kind of functions in a similar way to the counties, but it's for the pages of the DeLorme physical book that has been translated to digital.
Well, Nick, you and I talked just before the showtime.
Yes.
And we question, is it DeLorme or is it DeLorme?
I just went back and forth in I think I said both of them.
And I don't know either. So listeners, we need your help. Let us know what the proper pronunciation of the map book is. Let's see. I had it out here. Here it is. Let me copy and paste this into the chat there. There you go. Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sure. Please continue.
Okay. And for the DeLorme or DeLorme, whatever it is, so there is a state for every challenge that has been created for this. There's not a challenge for every state. So you're not going to see every single state listed there. It's just the ones that somebody's created a challenge for. And I believe that you can't create challenges for these anymore. So these are kind of like grandfathered in, is my understanding. So I worked closely with one of my beta testers, and he had created all the boundaries for these. And so I used his data, and we've adjusted it a little bit since Cachly was released. And now I think we're up to 8.0.3. So made a few small adjustments to maybe some of the coordinates were a little bit off. but those have all been corrected. So
that actually shows the delineation of the map page on
yes,
the map when you're looking for caches and such.
yes.
If you're
Yeah.
pursuing the Delorme challenges.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah. So there's that. And then the last part of Cachely Pro that was released in 8.0 is the auto loading live maps. So that's where you no longer have to tap the little load button in the bottom right. You can just turn it to auto load, and as you move around the map, that will start loading caches for you, kind of for your map bounds that you're looking at.
Wow.
So that's something I've had people ask for a long time. I've been hesitant because Cachely uses the API of geocaching, and there's limits to that, especially for regular users that aren't premium users. There's more limitations, so I was a little nervous for it to work well and still falling within those limitations. But I think I found a way that it can work. So so those are kind of the bigger Cachely Pro features that we came out in 8.0.
Fantastic. Now, when you added all those features under the Pro umbrella there, it is a subscription model, and CRS 98 says, to be clear, that's the way the big companies like Microsoft work as well.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of times I hear, the next version of Windows is going to be subscription based.
Sure.
So everything's moving that way. And if you're putting more and more resources into the back end, 2 servers just to update maps, that costs money. So
it does.
Was that the primary reason you moved to the subscription model, is to help cover the ongoing cost of, running an organization?
Pretty much. I mean, at one point it felt like we were losing money because of how much some of those things cost. So it was really needed. But the costs are pretty minimal. Cachely Pro for a year is $14.99 US. Monthly is $199. So if you go with the yearly option, that's pretty inexpensive. A little over $1 a month. If you just want only offline maps, which somebody can choose that's just $5 a year. So
there are different levels. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, just between those two, because we, as myself and my beta testers talked about it, we felt like there might be some people who just wanted maps. They didn't want the full feature set. And then also something that's kind of been grandfathered in is those people that purchased offline maps in pre 8.0, they automatically have offline maps still. They don't have all of Cachely Pro, but they still have their offline maps because they paid for those. So I didn't want to take those away from people. So that's something that I would encourage them to upgrade to the full Cachely Pro, but they still have the maps that they had paid for previously.
So are there 2 tracks? Is there like Cachely 8 non-pro and Cachely 8 Pro, or is just when you get to 8 it's Pro and that's the only option? Or
no, it's not the only option. So there was many new features of 8.0. Just some of the larger features I put under the Pro umbrella. So you can upgrade to 8.0. You don't have to get Pro. You can still use Cachely. You can do pretty much everything you want to. There's just some of those premium features that I felt like people would want, and if they wanted them, then they could subscribe to those. But there's I don't we won't go through the whole list, but if you go to my blog, there's just a whole list of all the features that came in 8.0 that weren't Pro. So there's lots of them, lots of small little things, things that you couldn't notice that were enhancements when you start using Cachely. So
cool. We'll make sure we share the URL for that blog later in the show. So folks are listening.
Well, Cachely.com, and then you can see blog on the top.
There you go.
Yeah,
that was easy. I just on the topic of the subscription model. I mean, I think as you said, like there's so many organizations, so many platforms that are moving to that now, and I think the real point that you made is, as a small developer, like you've got a lot of costs, and those costs don't go away after a month. So you could have a whole bunch of people buy Cachely in 1 month, but that's probably not enough to keep it going for a year, right? It's like,
well, and especially the cost of what maps used to be, and it was a one-time purchase of $299. And say somebody had bought that 5 years ago and they've been using it for that time, they've been I've been having to pay for bandwidth and the server costs and things like that. So we really had to change the model. So
it makes sense. you know what? You're always going to get lovers and haters, and what are you
Yeah.
going to do, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's
So
the right-
far, the reception has been fairly positive. Yeah.
that's good.
I'm happy about that.
Honestly, so many platforms and apps have moved to that model now. It's people shouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, did I jump on top of somebody else's toes? Was there?
No, I think we're good.
I
We've
think
covered
nope,
quite
yep.
a bit.
Okay. So, I guess looking forward into the future a little bit, Nick. 8.1, we're hoping is going to be coming. Any inside scoop on what we might expect to see in Cachly Pro 8.1?
Yeah. So I announced 3 large features that would be coming, and I didn't want to hold 8.0 off any longer because it had been long enough. So I'll just go through them one by one. So Carplay is one thing that will be coming.
Nice.
So I filled out the application to Apple years ago, and I did it a second time, and I did it a third time, and you just hear nothing. And then finally last year, I think around November, I finally got an acceptance. So you can't build a CarPlay app without some special files from them, and then it kind of unlocks everything in the code base that I use. So that will be coming, and that will be a full feature that'll use things like offline maps. That'll use auto loading as you drive, and you'll see caches, and you can, there'll be a lot of things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your eyes on the road, let your passenger.
There's been questions from a bunch of my UK users because apparently you can get in lots of trouble if you even look at your phone, apparently. But we'll leave the laws to whoever creates the cars and whoever creates the screens,
CarPlay is displaying it on a car screen, not your phone. You can put your phone away
that is
and
true.
Still see that. So
it is, but I guess my point being, and
exactly.
in Canada, we have very similar, highly enforced laws around distracted driving as well.
Yeah.
Nick. But I guess my point was more so that if you've got live, I mean, it's an amazing feature to have all that interface with CarPlay. It's more like I'm used to with the Android based system I use, and in our Jeep we've got Android for Auto in there, and it's great because you can plot in your next destination, and it's, it uses your Google Maps and go. It's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, to actually have the caching app, the Cachly app, now using its features on Apple Auto. Sorry, what's it called? It's CarPlay.
Yeah.
I'm an Android guy. Sorry.
No worries.
On CarPlay. I mean, that I can't, that's like mind boggling what kind of functionality and features would be available on the dash of your car. But I guess that's just then oh my goodness, the potential, the desire to be distracted gets increased for the cacher. So it's the driver drive, navigator watch the screen.
And the good thing that Apple builds it in a way that you can't just do anything you want. You can't just add interfaces and text where you want. You have to use kind of the templates that they provide, and they build those in a way so that I guess they're less distracting, maybe.
Right.
Maybe they've tested these in ways, but you can't just put up flashy animations and do anything you want. You can't do that.
Stop the car now.
No sirens, the cache is here, something like that. You can't.
And here's a YouTube link we thought you would enjoy.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I can't do that.
FTF alert.
Yeah.
So can you actually log from within CarPlay?
Ooh.
Yes, you'll be able to, and you can do it by voice.
That would be amazing for power trails.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of all these use cases, but yeah,
exactly.
For a power trail, Chris, that's the dream solution.
But Land Monkey, here's the problem with a power trail. You usually have multiple people in the car.
Yes.
And nobody's going to be quiet enough to be able to allow one person to talk and log.
Everybody shut up. I'm logging.
Well, you could set up a text template and just automatically log for all of them.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's the man. And it's a power trail, so you're not really going to write unique logs.
No, you're not.
Let's be honest here.
This is cache 137. This is cache 138.
That is so cool. Jim's asking if there's a mock-up of what this looks like, and if there is, that'd be awesome. If there isn't, man, I cannot wait to see a demo.
There is mock-ups that I sent to Apple in order to get this approved, but they were literally just mock-ups. I have, I played with the code. I've been starting the development of it, but I don't really have anything to show. Yeah, not yet.
No, that's cool. Well,
So CRS 98 says no more accidentally driving by caches.
Yeah, and there will be proximity alert. So if you say you target a certain cache, there could be an audio alert or something like that.
That's pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, wow, that alone is just a mind-boggling upgrade. Wow.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of people say, I really like Cachely Pro, but I'm waiting for CarPlay. So I want to get it out because I would like to have more pro users because I think that all the features are useful.
Okay, here's the big question: is CarPlay going to be a pro feature?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to be subscription based to get the CarPlay.
Correct.
That's fair. I mean, it sounds like it's been a butt ton of work for you. So
Yeah.
Well, dealing with Apple's never easy.
Right.
Well,
anyone who's run a podcast. Yeah.
I'm also a little nervous about once I built it and I submit it because they have the final say on the feature set that you put in there. So we'll see.
You would think a company that takes 30% of your money would be a little more responsive, but no, that's not the case.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Luckily, since I'm a small developer, it's actually only 15% now.
Oh, is it really?
They changed their rules. If you make under $1 million, so this is me announcing Cachely does not make $1 million.
I don't know if you heard that sound. That's the sound of my bubble bursting.
Yeah. Still a small developer, trust me.
Maybe one day, Nick. Maybe one day Apple will take 30% of your revenue.
That's what you're looking for. I want them to take more money from me.
Well, not.
Well, that's cool though to have it on CarPlay and on the dashboard navigation. I go back to when I first started caching my Dell Axiom Pocket PC running Mapopolis. I don't know if anybody remembers Mapopolis. We've talked about it before, but I liked Mapopolis because I used it just as my primary GPS navigation. It had text to speech, street names, and all that kind of stuff. But it would load GPX files, so I could just be commuting somewhere and I could look at the screen and go, "Oh, look, there's a cache right here." And I don't know, maybe I'm missing something that's already out there. Maybe Cachely does it, where I've always wanted another app that I could say, "Okay, navigate to this grocery store that I'm going to or wherever." And then also display caches as I'm driving along, just in case I want to pull off and get one. But
I don't know of an app that does it live except for Cachely. With the auto map loading, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong. But, I only really use two, right? I've used the official geocaching app because it's got the R in a circle, the registered trademark after it. Sure. So it's geocaching and Cachely. Those are the only two I've really used.
Yeah, I guess Cachely would technically be Cachelier because I have a registered trademark.
Do you have the registered
trademark? on my logo? Not in the name of the app like they did. But I do have the registered trademark.
I have the website open here. I had to go look. You got me. It's like, is it there? No, I don't see it.
I think it's when you load the app. I don't know. It's probably somewhere.
Okay. I have to ask a question. And maybe it's just because I'm old and forgetful. This happens. I see that Cachely is only $4.99 in the App Store. Was it $9.99 at one time?
No.
Okay.
Same price as it's always been.
Okay.
Never changed the price.
Same as it ever was.
Yeah. The classic geocaching app was $10.
Maybe that's what I'm confusing it
with. And that's what people got mad about when they made that change was I think they told people that you spent $10 and you would have premium forever. And that was
right. You'd have a premium app, but not premium.
Well, and then you would have you would have all these access to different things, and then they kind of changed it and people were mad. But that was a long time ago. So yeah. 2 more features coming in 8.1.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Yeah,
there's more. So the next one is multiple user logging. And that came as a user suggestion many times. And I downplayed it because I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. And until my son started wanting to geocache, and he created his own geocaching username, and we had to log out of Cachly and into his username, and then he would fill out his log. And I was like, okay, hand me the phone back. And I had to log out of my account or out of his account and then log into my account and fill out my log. And I was like, boy, what a pain.
And
then
thinking,
again,
what a lot of work. I can fix this.
Yeah, we were in Arizona not too long ago, and we found, I think, 12 caches in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the biggest pain. I was like, I hadn't developed that feature yet. I was like, my goodness, this is really frustrating. So I will credit my son to helping me decide to create this feature, because I was like, wow, we got to create this. It'll be so much easier. So that will be one. I'm thinking, you can add maybe up to like 10 accounts, and you could log all those. So
Nick, I love the transparency of the people were asking for this. And I was like, it sounds like a lot of work until it was my problem. Now I'm going to fix it.
Well, yeah, anything for my son.
I love it. That's the spin. Perfect.
So that is going to be perfect for power trails, for, road trips with several cachers in the car. Now, do they each need to log in, username and password, or can you just add them?
Yeah, so there'll be a new user screen in settings, and so you'll need to add a user and authenticate, and it will save that authentication token for each user. Yeah.
Okay,
so you'll need to do that initial.
I'm going to ask more questions. Now you've got me thinking.
Yeah.
So let's say you've got 4 cachers in a car, right? That's a pretty convenient number. 3 of them are premium, 1 isn't. What happens when you come up on a premium cache and log it?
I'm quite positive that basic users can log premium caches.
That's true. They just can't see them. So if you know the website address, you could.
Yeah. So it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting question though. Nick, you mentioned that you were caching recently in Arizona. UDAX wondering if you were at Geo Woodstock 20?
No, I did not go to that. This was before that. So my family, some of my family live south of Phoenix, so we were caching on there.
So you went to Arizona for another reason besides geocaching?
Yeah, but we did do a lot of geocaching. Okay. Basically, a lot of rusty containers in the desert, though.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I found.
Yeah.
That's so different than Washington State with, rusty containers under a fern.
Right. With lots of water in them.
I get dry containers under sagebrush here. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
All right. You guys ready for the last feature?
Yes. Please. Don't leave us hanging.
Okay. So the last one is track recording and importing of tracks. So that will be kind of a feature that has been asked for a long time from various people. But somebody says, I'm exploring in the woods. What if I get lost? I want to follow my track back.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. And you can record that, follow it back. You can save those if you want to. And then there's people that have tracks that they've already recorded. Maybe a friend has sent them, and then you can import those into Cachly and then display that track on the map. And then maybe you could follow their route. So it's not one that I had thought of that would be like a big use case for me, but I've had that request enough that I think it's a good feature to add. So
here's a good question for a couple of good questions on track recording. If you maybe you haven't gotten far enough in development to know this, but Bryling asks, how does track recording work if you switch to a different app and then back? And follow-on question, how's the battery life affected?
Sure. So it would still keep on recording in Cachly if you switch to another app, because background location updates are still continuing. Okay. That means I can write to the database. So that's happening. And then, what was the second question?
How's the battery life?
It's just the same as if you did something like proximity alert, where you are using location updates in the background and you leave Cachly and then it alerts you at some point. So iOS and your iPhone modern ones are very good with battery life. So you would not really see a difference. So I mean, I've tracked for hours and hours and hours before, and my phone hardly, dipped down on the battery. So
does it keep building the track until you tell it to stop, or does it hit a point and then start deleting older
No,
Wow.
it'll draw the track out on the map, and it will continue to record that until you stop. So if you've ever used anything like Strava,
Yep.
it's will have a similar way that you start and stop and save those recordings. So
That is wow. That is an amazing feature, and that frankly, that's a feature that might get Cachly gain the interest of search and rescue groups
Mhm.
to promote Cachly as a preferred
great.
geocaching app.
Oh, that would be fantastic if you can export it and, send it off.
yeah,
And hey, I'm lost or hurt here, and they could see exactly where you are rather than just coordinates.
that's true. Hadn't thought about
Huh.
that. Yeah.
I mean, all three of these major
Mhm.
features in Pro 8.1, there's like this unlimited creative use cases for these. Dude, that's man, 8.1 is da bomb.
Well, I wanted to, like I said, I wished I had put these in 8.0, but it would have taken too long.
Right.
And users were already being like, it's taking so long. And I was like, real life gets in the way. And people, no, honestly, some people think that Cachly is a large corporation and I have all
Mhm.
these people working on it and we don't have real lives and real jobs and things like that. And, things like that get in the way and just,
Do you know
take
why
your time.
people think that, Nick? Is because your app is so well built and so slick
Yes.
looking that it must come from a professional corporation.
That's very
Yeah.
kind. Yeah.
When you first mentioned tracking, I assumed you to be able to update like OpenStreetMaps. Oh, here's a new trail I just walked. I can export that and upload it to OpenStreetMaps, but I
Well,
like the other use cases better.
I mean, you can use those track files. You will be able to export them
Mhm.
and then log into your account. I don't know if there's an API where you could do it instantly from Cachly,
No, right. But you could
but you could
export.
export. I think it's a GPX file or some sort of waypoint file that then you can display over the map and then draw your routes. So, yep.
Komakino asked about a tick tracker to count the number of ticks on you as you go
Oh.
through.
Well, in the Northwest, I don't see those as much as when I go to California, but
Yeah.
maybe.
I had a lot of them growing up in Ohio, but not so much here.
Yeah. On my dog gets the ticks, but I never see them on my legs. Yeah.
There you go.
Minimag's looking forward to tracking and sending it to friends. Hey, I did this really great geocache with a wonderful hike here. Let me send it to you.
Yeah. And
Right.
that's like the Strava type use case, right? Like, let me
Mhm.
share with
Yeah.
you the adventure that I went on, and then you can either repeat it or just admire my my impressive hiking skills. But
Never
yeah, I
has
mean,
been.
again, right? The use cases for all three of those features that just the brain just starts going like, oh wow, you can do this, do that.
Sure.
Very
Sure.
cool.
And there might be a point where those kind of activities could be shared with a geocaching friend and you would actually wouldn't actually have to send them a file where it just syncs to iCloud and maybe then they can see that, shared file and it's just kind of seamless. But those kind of integrations would probably come a little bit later.
Right.
So
Makes sense.
Okay, so question about multi-user tracking or logging. I forget the
Yeah.
right term. So, like Chris said, it's 4 of us out caching for the weekend, and that's all great. Now it's the next week, and I'm no longer in the car with Jay while he's out finding another 1,000 caches. But I forgot to log out of his app. Do I automatically? Can I
Woohoo!
log out from not being with him, or does he have to go in and log me out of that app?
he would have to remove your user, but
Okay. Just
I will build it
curious.
in a way that when you go to the log screen and it shows the people that are their logs are about ready to be submitted, you could tap a check mark and not submit one of the people.
Okay.
So there will be a way that you can be reminded that person is about ready to get logged and you don't want them to be.
Okay. Because otherwise my find count could go way up.
That's true.
Well, I
Good
think
point.
like with any great feature, there's the opportunity for abuse. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
True.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's funny. Had a question from CRS 98. Is there any ballpark date when 8.1 will be released? Now that we're all salivating about the
Yeah.
features.
Again, that's the hard thing, because real life comes into play, and then
Yeah.
so it's hard to set an actual date.
And just when you've got it all figured out, Apple throws you a curveball.
Yeah.
exactly.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
I
curveballs,
definitely
you
hope
see
after summer, probably.
after summer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, that's pretty good.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't know what happened to Chris, but we'll just keep going.
Yeah,
He's
we lost
gone.
him. He's probably a technical reboot issue or something.
All right. Hey, Nick, are there any other features in Cachly that maybe people overlook that we haven't covered off in the
Sure.
mind-boggling array of features so far?
Sure. So one in 8.0 that I wanted to mention, and that's drafts. So I labeled as online drafts so people wouldn't be confused, but they can now, you've always been able to submit a draft to geocaching.com, but now you can actually see all of your submitted drafts. So if you like to submit them as drafts and then you want to, fill out the log later, you can now see all your submitted drafts, or if you want to use the website and you create drafts there, you can now see them in Cachly as well. So it's using that online component and syncing back, and then you can promote them to logs and submit them. So that's one enhancement that was also in 8.0, and that's not a pro feature. That's for everybody.
It is
Another
handy
thing, yeah,
for the draft. I've used drafts like when I'm traveling, and I don't want everybody to know I'm traveling.
there you go.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that use case, but yeah.
So I'll log those when I get back home, but I want them to keep the timestamp and everything of when I logged them.
Yeah, good point. Another thing that came in 8.0 was more tight integration with the Wherigo player. So you can actually now, if you see a Wherigo cache and you see it in Cachly, there will actually be an option, another button there to download the cartridge, and it will flip if you have the Wherigo app installed. So then it will flip you over to that app. It'll download it right away. So there's kind of more tight integration there.
Nice.
And just transparency. I also worked on the Wherigo app for HQ, so that's why I was able to build those two features, approve kind of the changes in the Wherigo app that helped with that integration. They obviously had to approve that, and then we were able to release them both, and it works. So that's helpful. A small thing that came in 8.0 is that if you use Pocket Queries, previously you had the option of downloading basically all the cache data from a Pocket Query, and it kind of took a long time because the API, say you had a PQ with 1,000 caches, you can't download 1,000 at the same time. You can only download about 50 at a time. So the new feature lets you just download the zip file of the GPX. So you can just download it in seconds and have it as an offline list. And then if you choose later to kind of update some of that more detailed data, you can. But it's a quick way to just get them into your phone right away, and it just takes seconds. So
very cool.
That's a
great.
nice addition. A few non 8.0 things that I think people sometimes overlook, especially the Watch app. If people have an Apple Watch, there's an app for Apple Watch, and it's pretty full featured. So if you haven't tried that and you have an Apple Watch, I think that is it's enjoyable to kind of browse caches nearby and look at the logs and the images just right on your wrist. It's kind of fun. And he's back.
Did you get the FTF, Chris?
Oh, yes. Oh, only because it was so nicely posted on Cachly that I could see that, yes, there was an FTF option. It was right close by, and I had to go get it.
Yeah, Brightline said Chris has gone to download Cachly and heading out for some night caching.
Very nice.
Now I have to go back and listen to the podcast because Wits End, you had just asked a question. It was right at the end of it. And I looked up and I go, uh-oh, Nick's frozen. Oh, wait.
No, he's not.
Everybody's frozen. No, it's me. Never mind.
Okay, well, you'll have to go back and listen because we're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But side note, I'm impressed with the technology setup you've got here, Chris, because as the host of and sort of the technology hub of the podcast, you dropped off and the podcast kept going.
Yeah.
So nice.
I just worry about what was said, why I wasn't here to police it.
Well, that's a different problem that you are not trying to solve.
You jumped right back in the moving car without skipping a beat. So
okay, there you go. Did you guys keep logging for me while I was gone?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
But what we learned is that we have the option to not log while you're gone.
That was the question.
Very cool. So Nick, sorry, we
no worries.
Your flow there. Was there some more stuff you want to cover?
Yeah, just some of the overlooked features. Another one is being able to see the elevation of a location on the map. You can check cache elevation if you go to the cache and look at additional details. But if you also drop a pin, which is a long press on the map, and then tap on it, that will show its elevation. So if you're ever curious about, this mountain or this area around a cache, what the elevation is, you can easily do that. I'm sure there's some puzzle caches that require, or earth caches that require some elevation. So that's a plus there. Something that a lot of people know about, but some people might not use, is proximity alert. I personally use that a lot because it also has integration with the watch app, where it will push the notification to your watch. But if you have a target cache and you want to set that on proximity alert, put your phone in your pocket. There's a lot of user changeable distances and things like that. How big of a radius you want to be alerted. You can change those, and then put your phone in your pocket. And then when you get close to that cache, it will either alert your watch or alert your phone and make a noise and give you notification and tell you exactly which cache it was and how close you are. So that's one that I use, especially because I enjoy hiking at the same time as caching. So I don't want to have my phone out the whole time and just be, staring at it when I know that a cache is 600 feet away or something. So that's helpful.
Actually, look around you while you're hiking in the woods rather than staring at your phone.
Yeah, amazing, huh?
But can you stream really loud music to your Bluetooth speaker hanging off your backpack?
Wow. Strangely enough, my wife and I were just mountain biking 2 days ago, and somebody was doing that. They were running the trail, but had a Bluetooth speaker, and we were thinking, why? Why are you doing that?
They're just being generous and sharing their music with you.
That's true. I should think of it that way. Thank you.
It's not how I think of it at the time.
No.
Yeah. True.
Same with the person with the loud music in the car next to you, or 3 cars back, and you can still hear it.
You feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very true. All right. Last overlooked feature that my beta testers said don't forget to mention was long press. And that means just there's a lot of interfaces or a lot of places in Cachly, especially buttons, that can use a long press. So when you see the filter icon, you can long press on that to turn it on and off. When you have filtering on and you see the little label of the name of your filter, if you're on live filters, or offline, if you long press on that, that will do various things like give you the option of your other templates to switch between. Obviously, long press on the map drops a pin. Let's see, what else did I write down? Long press on the cache code when you're reviewing a cache and cache details up in the title bar, that copies the GC code. So things like that. There's various places in Cachly where we've kind of integrated that long press. So just kind of be on the lookout for that.
I just learned about the filters.
Yeah, and
There you go.
Carlang said that the idea of long press is common on Android devices. It is, and it's common on Apple apps.
Yeah.
But what people may not, and I think it was really handy that you went through that list, Nick, because it's like, okay, you can long press.
Yeah.
But what does it do? And where the, again, talking use cases, where are the use cases where you can get some value? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Cool,
And sometimes you just feel silly. I'm just going to long press here. No, nothing happened. Okay.
Well, that'll happen. Yeah.
What about here?
That's how we learn.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Sometimes in an app, you poke around and long press something that doesn't look anywhere, and there's an Easter egg or something fun hidden in there that you wouldn't have found otherwise. Are there many Easter eggs hidden in Cachly?
There is one, and I would say it's hidden but not hidden. So it depends on when you are using Cachly. If you use it on Christmas, you will get a surprise. And a lot of people know about it if they are on the Cachly user group on Facebook and things. But yeah, your finds, your little smileys will have a Santa hat on them on Christmas. Nice. Yeah. So that is probably the only Easter egg that is in Cachly. There could be more. Yeah, stay tuned.
You could do bunny ears at Easter, and that would be a real.
I've considered other holidays. My beta testers have suggested many different ones. So,
I bet.
Jack-o'-lanterns for smiley faces.
Well, I notice all the traditional caches are green on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah,
and then they don't change the next day.
Yeah, that's a bug. Can you look into that?
That's a bug. It was set once, and now it's lost. Okay.
Yeah.
Too funny. All right. So Nick, we've convinced our listeners who are on Apple on iOS that they need to have Cachly 8 Pro, what do they do next?
Well, number one, if they're interested, obviously open the App Store app and search for Cachly. You'll find it right away. If you're looking for support for Cachly, if you already have it, just go to the More tab and scroll to the bottom. You'll see a help and support option, and that has documentation. At the bottom of that, it has a way to email me or go to our user forums. So people are very active on there, including myself. And again, the contact support just goes directly to me, and I respond as quickly as I can, usually right away.
Wow.
Yeah. So those two things. Also on Facebook, if you search for Cachly, we have a very active user group. There's over 4,000 people on there. Usually when somebody posts a question, tons of people just jump in to answer something way before I even get there. Sometimes people will tag me and say, Nick, what's the real answer on this? But usually people will answer, and I really appreciate their help. It really helps out. Yeah.
Very cool.
Most of it is long press on the button.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Nick, thank you so much. I use Cachly every time I go out caching, and I want to thank you for making such a good quality app. I certainly appreciate it, and I know there are thousands of others who do as well. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I enjoy it.
And folks, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest.
That's right. I want to take a moment to thank Land Sharks and Gold Country Geotourism, our corporate Denali level sponsors. Landsharks.ca, well, they're the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. You can check them out online. They're still shipping online orders daily, so get your orders in. And for absolutely amazing geocaching adventures, check out exploregoldcountry.com.
For sure. We want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters. That's the Land Sharks, Gold Country Geotourism, Cool Cow Cachers, and that man right over there, Nick from
Yeah.
Cachly. Thank you very much for
Yay.
your support of the podcast, Nick.
Absolutely.
Awesome to have a Denali level supporter right here as our guest.
Yeah.
Who knew?
And if you, dear listener, want to be almost as cool as Nick, wow. Why don't you go check out that Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
Like Subway Mark did,
And the Camp Clan,
And MNerve,
and J-Car,
GeoBirder,
Team Noltex,
Flagman,
Wet Coaster,
Sege Hove,
just finding our way,
Gas Station Tuna,
Trexer,
Dora Moore,
Kitty Quest,
Logwork,
CRS 98,
Boomer 365,
Green Words,
B Pendragon,
Railroad,
The Terrible Tease,
the BC Rock Crawler,
Eckerduck,
GeoNav Pro,
You Talks to Rocks,
MC3 Cats,
Mountain Bike,
LG 9000,
RE54321,
Genies,
and Teus,
GSM ×2,
Whidbey Island Gal,
Geocaches,
UDAC,
Butterfly Girl,
Seebeck Tribe,
Skyhawker,
Kid Vegas 19,
Wino Seattle,
Limax,
Just Carlo.
and Nervous Energies.
That was a lot harder to do. I had to really pay attention because the announcer names are all mixed up, or they're not set right.
I forgot to put in the the three hosts and left it with a two host,
So the
spread
fact
it
that
out.
we pulled it off that smoothly is because we're all intently reading the list as we go through.
Did you check the checkbox without actually doing the task?
Well, no, I updated the randomized the patrons, but changing the list who reads it along the side, that's manual.
There you go, a little BTS for our
Yeah,
listeners.
there you go.
What's
So,
interesting is my name is in there, and I wasn't on the podcast last week. So,
What
oh,
the heck?
that must have. Well, who knows where this one got copied over from? Right? We tend to just copy the show notes from a previous one, delete the entries, and move on.
Yeah,
and-
I copied it from the previous weeks, Chris. So.
Okay. So you were apparently reading Wits End's names last week.
Hey, and when
There you
there's
go.
only two of us and the other one is you, I can work with that. All right.
There you
Actually
go.
had to
There's
pay
more
attention.
behind the scenes than you ever needed to know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, Nick, thanks so much. If listeners want to get in touch with you, you've thrown it out before, but how would you like them to get in touch with you?
Just caching.com they can go to, or again in the app they can go to the more tab and then go down to help and support.
I think the best way is to go buy the app, click on the tab, and then you can get to him.
Long press on Nick.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Folks, we want to thank you again for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, please click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website. Now, if you didn't like the show, let us know what you wanted to talk about. But if you like the vibe, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and give us a review. Because if you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review. And of course, you can call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a question. No, leave us a comment, ask us a question, or help us find a cache on Cachly any time of the day or night. And of course, you can always email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and chat. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, Jay Kennedy, Brian Lang, and it's licensed under a Creative Commons 3.0 license, copyright 2024 by Chris Umfenauer. Folks, I ask you to stay tuned for... I didn't have it loud enough.
The after show.
Ooh.
I don't know. That was bad.
Oh, that was too funny. What do we got here? What kind of fantastic?
The after show.
There we go. I see we've got IHAM asking who will be doing ham radio field day this weekend.
Yeah, big annual event in the ham radio world. 4th weekend in June every year.
Ah.
I thought
Not
it was
just-
like sandwich and a radio and like a picnic.
I have no doubt that there will be many sandwiches and picnics around radio
okay.
this weekend.
Very cool.
So
You going to be going out doing that, Jim?
I've got a little. Yeah, I'm going to stop by one of the local clubs and check on a few things. Yeah,
Cool.
not too hardcore, but some mild involvement.
Awesome. Well, if it's something you enjoy.
Yeah.
It's cool. White Coaster reminds us, and we talked about this earlier in the show, there's only one day left to get your
There
June
you go.
solstice souvenir.
So if you're watching this tomorrow on YouTube, you got to do it quickly. If you're listening to this on Saturday on the audio only podcast, yeah,
Bye.
you missed it.
Backdate your log.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
wait.
you go. Wait a minute. I agreed to that.
My last souvenir was GIF
Oh, wow.
last November.
Let's see. I think mine was the 31 days of August. Wait.
That's funny.
Maybe that's too far back.
Probably. I'm sure you've gotten one since then.
I've gotten a new state since then.
There you go.
I don't see any other FTAS.
No, White Coaster was just celebrating that
Oh, yes.
summer is here and the days are now getting shorter.
Not yet. Tomorrow is the longest day of
I
the year.
know. Good day to be out getting that souvenir. You got lots of daylight.
Exactly. And then they start getting shorter.
Brian Lang reminds you your last souvenir was the Geo Woodstock souvenir.
That's right. And Arizona. And did I get anything else that time?
Well, you probably did, Brian. So Brian Lang's just reminding you to stop complaining.
Yeah.
I wasn't complaining. Was I? Let's see. I also got a Cito Season 1 souvenir.
There you go. Look at you. Look at you and all your souvenirs.
New Mexico, Cito, Woodstock, Arizona.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Just
Wow.
love those souvenirs. Hashtag stop complaining. Hashtag GCD. Hey, that's it. It's time to go.
That's it.
And I have to say, I'm proud of you all. Nobody's brought up the question they told you not to ask.
That's right.
So
Well done.
Good job.
with that, I want to say thank you. And until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest.